I see something.
Oh, we have a diver surface.
Oh, he got something. What is it?
One went down, and there's already one down. It would pretty much could look like that, right, Mike?
Blackwater diving is not for the faint of heart. With zero visibility and powerful currents, every moment is a battle against the elements. For the Oak Island crew searching the Pamunkey River, these dangers are just part of the job. They are hunting for the legendary Cornwallis treasure, a prize so great it makes every terrifying second spent in the abyss worthwhile. The River of Whispers. A new day breaks over Mechanicsville, Virginia, the morning sun casting a golden glow on the landscape. But the beauty of the scene hides a deep and murky secret. Here, the Oak Island team, represented by the determined Maddie Blake and metal detection ace Nicolina Bohr, are joining forces with local treasure hunter Matt Howell and his crew. They aren't just on a casual expedition, they are on the trail of an incredible prize. The legend speaks of an estimated $65 million in valuables, a treasure connected directly to one of history's most famous figures, the British Revolutionary War General Charles Cornwallis. The energy is electric. Coming off a successful previous day, the team feels the momentum carrying them forward. There is a sense that they are on the verge of something monumental. Their target is the Pamunkey River, a waterway that snakes through the countryside, its dark waters holding clues from centuries past.
Your hard work's paying off, you know what I mean? You're telling the story, and it's emerging right before our eyes.
Today's mission takes them further upstream, into a section of the river that presents a whole new set of challenges. The water volume here is immense, and the depth is significantly greater than what they faced before. What's more, the narrower channel is choked with countless tree entanglements, ancient logs and branches, creating a dangerous underwater maze. The current is less forceful here, but the sheer number of obstructions makes the dive far more treacherous. Before anyone can even think about entering the water, a meticulous preparation routine begins. For treasure hunters like Matt and Maddie, this is a sacred ritual. They spend a great deal of time double-checking every piece of their gear, from the air tanks to the communication lines, ensuring everything is perfectly safe and functional. Diving in these rough, black water conditions is incredibly dangerous. A solid plan must be established before they disappear into the inky darkness, a place where a diver's life depends entirely on their equipment and the team on the surface. After the final checks and a shared sense of readiness, the team is set. The hunt is on. But this hunt is about more than just a payday. It's about validating a story that has been whispered for over 200 years.
Your analytics and overlay it onto the historical narrative.
The story goes that as General Cornwallis maneuvered his troops through Virginia in the final desperate phases of the war, he was burdened with a massive cache of looted valuables, gold, and perhaps even a payroll for his army. Facing imminent conflict and the possibility of defeat, he couldn't let it fall into the hands of the Continental Army. The legend insists he ordered it buried in a secret location, a spot he intended to return to but never could. The team believes that location is somewhere at the bottom of this very river. As the divers prepared to take the plunge, the weight of that history hung in the air as thick as the Virginia humidity. They weren't just looking for metal and artifacts, they were looking for proof that a ghost story was, in fact, terrifyingly real. The silence on the riverbank is broken only by the hiss of regulators and the calm professional voice over the comm system. The divers, now just bubbles on the murky surface, descend into a world of pure black. Down below, the conditions are a slight improvement over yesterday. A few precious inches of visibility make the suffocating darkness marginally less absolute. The divers on the bottom, Matt and Maddie, communicate with the surface, their voices a faint, distorted link to the world of light above. They are immediately at work, sweeping their detectors across the riverbed, listening for the telltale beep that could change everything. Meanwhile, on the shore, Nicolina and Dallas, the team's historian, pore over maps and research documents. Dallas is asked a crucial question. If he had to place an X on the map based on all his research, where would the heart of the lost town be? Without hesitation, he points to a spot just over their shoulders, a nondescript patch of riverbank. He explains what little is known about the settlement. Truth be told, it was a bustling tobacco port in its day, a key economic hub. Records confirm General Cornwallis marched his troops through here at least once on a destructive campaign where he burned the warehouses and many of the town's buildings, effectively wiping it off the map. The biggest problem for the researchers has been the lack of any concrete evidence of a pier or a dock. If they could find the remnants of the town's main pier, it would be the breakthrough they desperately need. It would confirm the historical location and give them a central point to focus their search for the treasure. As if summoned by the thought, a shout comes from the water. A diver has surfaced and he's holding something. The team rushes to the water's edge, their hearts pounding. He holds up two items. The first is a piece of rusted iron, bent and ancient. It looks like a strap, something that could have been used to bind large wooden beams together. The second object is even more exciting, a reddish, misshapen brick. At first glance, it might seem like a common piece of debris, but Dallas knows better. He can immediately tell it is handmade. You can see the slight curve to it, a warping that modern machine-made bricks simply do not have. Worn smooth by centuries in the river, its imperfections are what make it perfect. This is a handmade brick from the colonial era. Without a doubt, this single object is a tangible link to the 18th century. This isn't just any brick, it's a key.
Look at this brick.
Look at that. Is there a way to tell if it's postmodern or not?
Well,
Prior to the invention of the brick-making machine in England in 1853, all bricks in North America were painstakingly crafted by hand. Soft clay and water were mixed, formed in wooden molds, and then fired in kilns. The resulting bricks were never perfectly uniform. The one in Maddie's hand, slightly thicker on one side, is a perfect example. It places them directly in Cornwallis's time. It is almost certainly from one of the very structures in the ghost town that Cornwallis burned to the ground. They have found the first piece of the puzzle. Now they had proof they were in the right time period, but one brick and a piece of iron weren't a dock. They needed more, a whole lot more, to prove a town once stood on this very spot. The discovery of the handmade bricks sent a jolt of electricity through the team. They were no longer just chasing a legend, they were holding a piece of it. But the real explosion of excitement was yet to come. While the group on the shore was analyzing the brick, Matt Howell was having the dive of his life. He surfaced with an urgent report, his voice filled with a kind of breathless discovery that every treasure hunter dreams of. He announced that he had found the best signs of a dock he had ever seen. The evidence was undeniable. He described an underwater landscape that was nothing short of extraordinary. In the spot where he had first descended, he found massive timbers cut square by hand, still stuck vertically in the mud. These were the support posts, the very legs of the long-lost pier. Above them, he felt out large sections of flat wooden decking buried under layers of silt. It was all there. For the first time in over 2 centuries, someone was witnessing the remains of the town's commercial heart. He was certain this had to be the place. Finding these dock pieces was a monumental victory. It confirmed that the historical accounts were not exaggerations or lies, they were telling the absolute truth. The town was real, the pier was real, and it was right here. The next step was to find something personal. They needed an artifact that showed people lived and worked here, something that proved the British troops had stormed through this exact location. The brick and the wood were the foundation, but now they needed to find the human element, the small personal items that get lost in the chaos of life and war. With their confidence soaring, the team prepared for another dive, ready to push deeper into the debris field of the forgotten pier. They had found the ghost town skeleton, but the real treasure, the story of the people and the rumored Cornwallis fortune, was still buried within its bones. A huge dive into darkness and danger. There is a unique energy that surrounds an underwater treasure hunt, a tangible buzz of excitement and anticipation. You are, quite literally, pulling history from the water, and every second holds the potential for a world-changing find. But that excitement is always balanced on a knife's edge of fear. For the divers, plunging back into the Pamunkey River, the thrill was almost overwhelming, but so were the dangers. They were engaged in blackwater diving, one of the most hazardous forms of underwater exploration. The currents were immensely powerful, a relentless force that could rip a diver's mask off or tangle them in unseen debris. The water wasn't just murky, it was an opaque void. In reality, they could not see their own hands in front of their faces. Down in that cold, wet darkness, every movement is a struggle. The divers, Matt and Maddie, were getting absolutely battered by the current. It was a physical fight just to stay in one place, let alone conduct a methodical search. It is an environment that tests the limits of human endurance and courage. Yet in the midst of this chaotic, sensory-deprived world, there is a single sound that cuts through the fear: the electronic beep of the metal detector. When that sound hits your ears, it's an exhilarating jolt of pure adrenaline. It is the sound of hope. On the surface, the team listened intently to the comms, hanging on every word from the divers below. Then the report came through, crackling but clear. Matt confirmed he was seeing bricks, not just one or two, but a huge pile of them. This was it. This was the foundation of one of the burned warehouses. It was the moment of validation every treasure hunter lives for. Even if it wasn't the treasure itself, it was the piece of the puzzle that screamed, "You are in the right place, keep going." A wave of chills went through the topside crew. You could hear the raw excitement in the diver's voice, a sound of pure triumph that transcended the electronic distortion.
We do have a little more visibility. I believe Matt is working on a target right now.
He was on a roll, pushing through the brutal current, his detector sweeping over the rubble of the past. The beeps became more frequent, more insistent. He wasn't just finding scattered debris anymore. Then came the words the entire team had been waiting to hear. Targets acquired. Not one target, but multiple. Plural. It meant he had found a concentrated deposit of metal objects, exactly what you would expect to find at the site of a bustling colonial pier. The most difficult part of the hunt was over. They had pinpointed the location, and now they had confirmed valuable targets waiting in the mud below. The announcement of targets acquired sent the surface team into a frenzy of excited anticipation. Minutes later, a shape broke the surface of the river. It was a diver, and he was giving the OK signal. A wave of relief and joy washed over the crew on the boat. A happy diver emerging from the water is the best sight in the world, and this one was beaming. When you spend hours fighting the cold and the dark, the first thing you want to do upon finding something is rip open your recovery bag and share the discovery with the very people who have been with you on that same incredible journey. He was helped onto the boat, dripping and exhausted, but visibly ecstatic. He held out his mesh bag, heavy with the weight of its contents. "Hand me the goods," someone said, their voice tight with excitement. The bag was passed over and its heft was surprising. It was heavy, really heavy. The entire team gathered around as the bag was unclipped, their eyes wide with wonder. The contents were carefully poured out onto the deck, and there it was. What spilled out was not mud or rocks. It was a collection of history, a trove of 18th century artifacts that silenced the entire crew. While the specific details of every single item would require careful cleaning and analysis by experts, the immediate impression was overwhelming. These were not random pieces of junk. These were personal items, remnants of trade, and pieces of military equipment all jumbled together. They had found tangible proof of the British troops, the bustling port, and the violent event that brought it all to an end. This was what they had been looking for. This was the find that proved the legend was rooted in solid fact. This amazing discovery was more than just a few old objects. It was a direct connection to the people who lived and died here centuries ago. It was the ultimate validation for the team, a confirmation that their research was accurate, their instincts were correct, and their grueling effort was worth it. They had reached into the darkness of the Pamunkey River and pulled out a piece of lost American history. The $65 million Cornwallis treasure may still be out there, but on this day, they had found something priceless, the undeniable truth. This find is historic, but does it prove the Cornwallis treasure is real, or is it a clue to an even bigger secret? Like and subscribe for more.